Tonight, the team and I are interviewing George Lunsford. He's a cryptid investigator with the NCI team, author, and world traveler. And tonight, he's going to tell us all about his supernatural experiences that were life-changing and beyond the ordinary. Stay tuned.
Welcome to a special edition of Beyond the Ordinary. We are out in the field with another NCI member who have allowed us to come along with them on some of their investigations. We have Mr. George Lunsford, author and Bigfoot extraordinaire.
I don't know about the extraordinary part, but
I do.
glad to be here.
Now, George, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned a fascinating account of what happened to you when you were sick in hospital. Do you think you can share that for everybody?
I'll give you the short version. How's that?
No, give us a long version.
Oh, you want the long version?
You want the long version.
All
What
right.
the detail? Detail's important. With this extraordinary story.
All right. Well, I was in my early 20s, and I hate going to the doctor. I despise going to the doctor, and I wouldn't go to the doctor until I got sick. I couldn't breathe well, and I went to a PA, and she said, "Oh, you just got bronchitis." And a week later, my lung was half full of fluid on both sides. I had 104 fever, and I was basically a 6-foot rag with no bones. And they took me to the emergency room, and they got me what they thought was stabilized. They put me in a room, and it's probably around 3 o'clock. And now in the room there's a clock on the wall, and it has a second hand. Well, you'll understand that later. And they put me in this room. I was asleep, and about 3 o'clock I just woke up, and there was a woman standing beside my bed. Not a nurse, but a woman, and a little old woman, dressed in an older woman's dress. And she was standing there, and she said, "It's okay, honey. It's okay." And I said, "All right." I mean, I had the most peaceful feeling I've ever had in my entire life. I was calm. Everything was just the best you've ever felt in your life. And I sat up, and I seen that there was something in the corner over there of the room. And it looked like an angel. I mean, all I could see was a shadowed silhouette. But it had the prettiest blue eyes you've ever seen in your life. And it's stuck in my head. It's always there. And I was looking, and she said, "It's okay. Everything's going to be fine." So I jumped up off the bed, and I walked about a little between her and what looked like an angel. And I looked back, and my body was in the bed.
Oh, wow.
Which you thought would have freaked me out, but I was like, okay. You just have that wonderful feeling.
Wow.
There's calmness, there's no worry, there's nothing. It was just wonderful. And I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden these other people start walking through the walls into my room. And they're introducing themselves. I don't know why they're introducing themselves to me. I ain't nobody. But they introduced, there's probably 5 or 6 people walked in and introduced themselves.
And they walked through the wall?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
which most people would have thought was weird, but for me, it's another day. So it's a Tuesday, but they introduced themselves, and we were all talking amongst ourselves. They give me their names and how old they was and where they were at and all this other stuff. And I don't know why they were sharing this information, but they all were. Kind of strange, but like I said, the feeling I had, I was happy no matter what anybody did. He probably kicked me in the leg and I wouldn't have cared. But the angel I seen raise his hand up. And all of a sudden this little pin of light popped up on the wall. When he dropped his hand, it went, and the whole wall was like, it had no projection of light coming out of it. It was just this really warm feeling light. And people started telling me bye and walking into this light. Well, all of them had gone except for me and the little lady. And I won't never tell her name out of respect. But it was just me and her. And I thought, well, I guess it's my turn. So I started towards it and she grabbed me by the shoulder. She said, no, honey, no, it's not your time. You need to stay here. I said, are you sure? She said, yeah, you need to stay here. And I said, okay. She said, go over there and lay down in the bed and everything will be fine. I'm like, okay. So I'll go back, I'll get up on where my body is and I'll lay down. I'll look over and she waves at me and smiles. She walks into the light and it's all gone.
Wow.
It's disappeared.
So I have a two-part question to that. If
Sure.
First, are you a person of faith?
I am.
And then if you are, how did that impact your faith, that experience?
It strengthened it. I mean, I've always believed in Jesus and God, and of course, I wear this all the time. And for me, it just made it stronger. It really did.
So what happened after?
Well, there I am laying to bed, and all of a sudden, I open my eyes. There's alarms going off, and these women the nurses come bursting in my room, and one of them gets up on me. I said, what are you doing? And her eyes get about this big around, and she's like, "Oh." I said,
He's not dead yet.
can I help you? And she gets off and all of them leaves except for the head nurse. And she stays in there. And I said, I have a question for you. She said, she still looks very confused. I said, who is so-and-so? I named that lady's name off. And then I started describing her. And she just looked at me and she sat down in the chair and all the color just left her face.
Oh boy. Wow.
And she said, well, she died right before you were put in this room.
Wow.
I said, oh, okay, well, she's good. And then I started talking about each one of these other people, and I thought she was going to pass out. Because each one of the people I described and give her the names to had died either on that floor or the floor above them.
And that story is remarkable in itself. It's remarkable near-death story. But what I found genuinely astonishing was what happens next after you. So these things paranormal experiences that you have. I want to induce you to say it. I want you to tell it in your own words.
After that happened, for about 10, 20 years, I was able to see and talk to ghosts, which is weird. It's weird for me. But I would be going down the road and there'd be somebody pop up in the seat beside me.
Oh gosh, that would really unnerve
And
me.
then the first couple of times, you're like, oh,
it's extraordinary. It's really interesting.
But I mean, it scares you to death when the first few times, but after a while, hey, how you doing? And they would pop up, and it's almost like they didn't realize they were dead. Mm-hmm. And basically, I felt like I was sent back to let these people know, you've passed away. It's okay. You can pass over. And I did that with several of them, and they just kind of left the car, and you could see the light in the corner of my eye, and they would just go off.
That is so.
And it was a different kind of experience.
You mentioned the light. Can you describe what that light looked like?
It's hard because I've never ever seen a light that didn't project out. When you put a light anywhere in the dark, it automatically, spans out. This one did. It was like it was just all the light was being pulled into itself. Mm-hmm. There was no. I mean, you could walk over to this, and it would never change the color on your hand. It wouldn't project onto your hand or anything. And it was just because even though he made the light, he was still standing there, and no light projected onto the angel. Mm-hmm. But I could still see his blue eyes. That's the only thing I could distinguish on. besides his wings.
Interesting. And the people that appeared in your car, um, how would you describe their opacity? Were they translucent, completely opaque?
Semi translucent.
Hmm.
But what would freak most people out, and I guess I'm just abnormal, they would actually appear as when they died. So if they busted their head when they got killed, then they would appear with their head busted.
Tell him about the young man, because this follows on. Tell Greg and everybody else about the young man that you saw, because this follows on from this question.
Most of them were really calm. Most of them would go on and do what they needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I had one, he did not want to believe he was dead. He was irate.
Yeah.
He got mad and was pitching a fit and hit the dash of the car, and I finally pulled over to where his marker was, and I took him over and showed him. I said, "This is where you wrecked. You're passed away now," and he just stormed off.
Oh.
He didn't pass over. He stormed off. He was angry, and it was just one of those situations you're thinking to yourself, "What did I do wrong?"
Wow.
Trying to.
How did you know where his marker was?
Oh, most time when they wreck on the side of the road, there's a marker there, and since he popped up in that general vicinity, I assumed it was his marker.
Wow. Getting back to the light, when you saw the light, did you hear anything coming from the light?
No.
Was there any noise, anything at all?
Completely quiet.
Wow.
There was nothing. I mean, it was the calmest, quietest feeling you've ever had in your life, and there was no fear, there was no reservation, there was nothing. It was the weirdest feeling ever, but it's the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And I was there when both my kids were born, and it was just that kind of feeling like everything is gone. There's no more pressure on you at all.
Wow, that's incredible.
Now, I had one of the things you told me earlier, what I thought interesting, was this story about this man who used to laugh at you. And I think that's a great story to tell the others. Do you want to share that with me?
Well, okay. To get to my house from the main road, you have to go between two graveyards, and there's a bridge over a railroad track. Well, when all this was going on, I was coming down that road and I heard laughing, and I just started looking around, looked down, that there's a grave down here on the corner, and there was apparently is a dead black man, and he would laugh and flip me off.
You said this lasted about 10 to 20 years. So did it fade away?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the good question. That's why you said 10 to 20 and weren't as specific.
Right.
So could you describe, I mean, Natalie's asked a great question, so building on the question, could you describe how that fading process worked?
It went from everywhere I went. Oh, thank
Sorry,
you.
there was a bug.
That's okay. It won't eat much. It went from being able to walk through graveyards and hear them talking and see them and hear the conversation.
Hear all the people talking to you.
They would just be talking in general. I mean,
Just chatting away.
The funny thing about graveyards, most ghosts don't stay in them. There's only a few that actually remain with their bodies after a while. Most of them wander out.
Yeah.
And I could be walking down the road and I hear a voice and look, and there's a translucent person behind me following, talking to me. And as it went away, that the occurrences lessened. It didn't just stop. It just kind of started backing off and backing off and backing off. I don't know if I'd done what I was supposed to do, but I felt like I had.
Yeah.
And it's, for lack of a better word, it makes me feel good that God gave me that chance to help these people cross over. And I hope I did what He wanted me to do. You know what I'm saying?
That
So,
is really beautiful.
Yeah.
thank you.
That is really amazing to have that gift.
I'm not sure it's always a gift.
No.
I mean,
So did you ever run into any spirits that were, you had the laughing man and the young man that was upset. The young man that was upset, did he ever return and have a
No.
conversation with you? Okay.
he never come back to my truck or anything. I passed by that way. I could see him, but he never popped back into the truck.
Okay. And are there any other spirits that really that just startled you?
No, the only spirit I've ever had that actually scared me. I didn't want to be around. I was at a buddy of mine's house, And the house he was renting was well over 100 years old.
Mhm.
And he said, I got to show you something. So we went down in the basement, and it had been a house during the slavery time. And they had cages built into the rock under the house.
Oh.
It still had the chains in them.
Mm.
So we went down there, and you got to remember, he has a 130-pound Rottweiler. It's me and him and the dog. Dog ain't afraid of nothing. So we go down in the basement, and we hear something, and the dog starts backing up and whining. And in the middle cage, there's a black figure formed with red eyes.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, this is not good. And this thing comes out of the cage and moves around. And it's almost like you can feel the fear building up in you. And now, I don't get scared too often. I mean, I take off after Bigfoot. I'll take off after everything because I'm not real bright. So, but,
You're in good company.
yeah. But this thing moves around, and as it comes around, so the dog's behind us. It's whining and trying to get away from it. So I said, okay, I'm going back upstairs. I'm done with this. We go back up. The dog beat us upstairs. And I go up, and my buddy comes up, and he closes the door, and we hear something. And we look around, the door slams open. And this thing comes up out of the basement and goes around the living room, and it starts up over the ceiling. I went to the house.
Oh.
I was done. I didn't even go back to the house until he moved.
I have a question. So you had this ability after the illness incident and the out of body, near death experience. You had this ability for what, 10 or 20 years? You said to
Something like that. I don't
kinda
remember exactly.
see and communicate with beyond the veil kind of thing. See these people, and it faded away. So, if it were to return, would you want it to return? This ability?
Well, honestly, that's totally God's decision. If He wants me to have it back, then I'll be honored to do it. But it's not something I would wish on anyone, because not to be ill, but they kind of irritate me.
Yeah.
You driving down listening to music, I was like, hello.
Just a little.
Sorry.
Don't
Yeah.
bother her.
It's just an attack. Lee.
Just an attack leaf. Sorry.
I mean, but all this stuff happened. The funniest thing that ever happened after the ability being gone, my house started, it was haunted. And my wife kept seeing somebody cross by the shower curtain. And I wasn't there. And we were sitting there, and I have a Ring camera by the front door. We were sitting there, and the ring goes off. So we pull it up, and there's for lack of better words, there's a fog-shaped human comes out of the wall, stops right in front of the Ring camera. And what looks like its head looks at the Ring camera, and it turns and walks straight off the porch.
Wow.
Wow. And she saw this too on the
Oh, yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this was a fog-shaped human.
Mm-hmm. And you could see that there was enough definition you could tell what was its head and what was its body. And it's actually turned and looked at the camera.
Could you tell if it was male or female?
No.
Okay. But was it closed?
I don't know. It's kind of foggy. But I've had a lot of weird stuff happen. Between that, the UFOs, the Bigfoot.
Well, let's just focus on the
Right.
on the spirits for today. So of all the encounters that you've had, and we haven't talked about, are there any poignant ones that you want to share with us that stick in your mind over the many years?
Let me think. Well, besides the ones popping up in the car. Actually, yeah, there was one we went in, we was looking at one of the graveyards because I was doing some other stuff. I was still doing filming and acting back then. Was walking through a graveyard, and I kept hearing a young lady. And I thought it was my wife. I was like, what? She said, I'm not saying anything to you. I said, well, somebody is. And we kind of went around the corner. There was this really nice plot. It had a really nice thing. And somebody started crying. I looked over, and I could see, she couldn't see it, but I could see a little girl sitting there. And my wife went over this way, and without her knowing it, because I didn't want to scare her, I kind of walked over, and I said, what's wrong? And she said, I'm Mama. She said, I miss my mama. I said, well, is your mama gone? Has she passed away? And she said, yes. She said, I want to be with her. I said, you can be with her. you've passed away as well. So all you've got to do is accept that you're passed away, and you can carry on without it. You can carry on to her. And I explained, the rest of it to her, and she got a big smile on her face, and I felt a warm light. I didn't see it, but I could feel it. And I turned my back, and when I turned back, she was gone.
Oh.
Aw, that's beautiful.
Now,
So
the spirits that you were seeing, did they have a specific age group, or was it all different ages?
it was all different.
All different ages.
And usually it's when you go by where somebody had wrecked
Mm.
and got killed. A lot of times they won't accept the fact that they're dead.
Mhm.
They think that they're going to get better, and a lot of the spirits just basically need you to say, everything's fine. You're gone.
Mhm.
You no longer have to worry about this world. And they'll most of them will go on
Mhm.
and go on into the other side and take judgment and all that.
So you were one of God's warriors.
I felt like I was. I hope I was. I tried to be.
Sounds like it to me.
Now, during all of your journeys through all this, did you ever experience any non-human spirits or entities?
Not that I know of. But I think I was only allowed to see what he wanted me to see. I really do. I don't think I was allowed to see the really bad stuff, because everybody I've talked to, a lot of them people experience really horrible spirits, and I never did. Except for that one shadow creature, I never experienced anything bad.
Hmm.
I did. Now I seen something that wasn't bad. It was just the situation, and it wasn't really a ghost. It was more of like a skip in time,
Mhm.
something that was burning the time and happened just every now and then. I worked at an explosive plant, and before the company that I worked for bought it, they used to work with chemicals, and they did all the liquids and stuff like that, and they made phosphorus.
Mhm.
And up on the hill, now the explosive plant had different buildings for different jobs, because you never want to have all that stuff in one place. You'll, like in Tennessee, happened. But they was two guys. Now this was long before I got there. Two guys were working up in the phosphorus building, and they have them these big vats that they have to clean. And you can't use anything that'll spark off, because phosphorus will go up like that, and it burns at such a hot temperature it'll actually melt bone. And these guys were working, and one of the guys reached up and grabbed the wrong tool. And when he went to clean, he struck it, and it sparked off. One guy melted inside the vat.
Oh.
The other guy came out of the vat and was walking down the road melting and screaming.
Oh my God.
And you could see, when I started, you could still see his footprints burned into the pavement.
Oh man.
And now I seen that once. I seen him walking down and screaming. And it was the most heart-wrenching thing you've ever heard in your life.
Mm.
Mm.
That is absolutely horrible.
That's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
When you look back on this process, do you feel like, and I know it's through God in your saying, because I know you're very humble about this. Do you feel like you've been gifted an opportunity to do a lot of good to help people, or do you feel like it was a burden?
I felt honored that he gave me that chance to try to help people, help spirits cross over to where they could go where they needed to go to. It really was. It was very humbling. It made you realize that you're really nothing but this, and you have this great expanse, whether it be this dimension or others, and it just makes you feel good when you get to help out something in that situation.